Great. I will also share with you the link for our website later on in the chat. And a little bit more of explanation about Axelnode. So like I said, it works on tickets. You get a ticket. Let's say there's a company looking for a full stack developer, and you get this ticket saying this and this company is looking for a full stack developer. Then if you're interested in the position, that's great. You can use the ticket to apply. But if it's of no interest to you, or maybe you have a friend that you think might be more interested in it, or you think you have a friend who might be able to find somebody who can be a good full stack developer for this company, you can refer the ticket to them. And in the end, if you're in that chain of referencing anywhere within this chain, and you help the company find the right applicant that got the job in the end, you will get a cash reward. We also have this membership card program where you will be able to get more points for every position that you helped fulfill. And the more points you get, the better card you get, the better bonuses you get, and more companies can trust the people that you refer. So let me show you a few open positions that we have on the platform right now, if you're interested in working in Israel or in Japan. First, we have an open position in a company called Crick and Liver. Crick and Liver, they are a Japanese company, a creative company, and they are hiring for many positions, such as for the gaming industry, for web, for video, TV programs, and events. So if you're interested, I will share the link in the chat in just a few minutes, and you can see the open positions that they have on the platform right now, and you could use the link to apply. We also, this is the open positions. You can see a little bit of the details here now, but you could see it more in detail when I share with you the link later on. And we also have a few open positions here in Israel, mainly in the central area. For instance, we have a full stack team lead position open on the platform right now. I won't leave this slide on for too long, so if you do want to read all the details, please do check out the link that I will share in the chat in just a minute. We also have an open position for a BI system analyst on the platform, open as we speak. So please do check out the links when I send them later on. Okay, so that was a little bit about Axelnode. I hope you enjoyed my little talk. And now I would like to open the stage to Gonen Krak, who will tell you about his experience being an Israeli hacker in Tokyo. Gonen, can you hear me? Let's see if we can hear you.
Yeah. Hey,
Great.
Shir. And
Yes.
hey, everyone. So I will now share my screen in a moment.
Yep. Let me just. Here, can you share it now, Gonen?
See, yeah. Just a second. Yeah. Yeah, great. Can you see?
Yes,
Great.
we can see.
So first, I will briefly discuss today's plan. So yeah, first I will introduce myself and the beginning, and I'll speak a little bit about the beginning of iWonWorks, the cybersecurity startup focusing on the Japanese market I co-founded with Anisan. Then, as you probably saw on the description of this event, now I'm currently living in Tokyo. And so then I'll speak a little bit about then, like how is the coronavirus situation in Japan, how I'm spending my time in Tokyo now, a little bit about interesting cultural differences between like Israelis and Japanese. Then I'll speak about the Japanese business culture. I think I'll have some very interesting insights to share with you. And lastly, I'll speak about a little bit about the cybersecurity industry in Japan. And yeah, and we will end the lecture with an interesting coding test. So we will get more on that later. Again, hello everyone. I'm Gonen Krak. I'm 27 years old. I'm a cybersecurity researcher. I served in Unit A200, Shmone Matayim, and served for over 5 years and had both technological and management roles. I have a master degree in computer science from Tel Aviv University. And as you probably could have guessed, I'm a big fan of Japanese culture. I visited Japan multiple times. Um, Big fan of Japanese culture, music, movies, anime, so on. And recently co-founded a cybersecurity startup focusing on the Japanese market. Yeah, so maybe the first story I will tell is about how I met Anisan. So actually, we met through a mutual friend. Um, Through Tomer. So yeah, Tomer is a good friend of mine that can speak Japanese fluently, and he knows many people, many Japanese people that live in Israel, and Anisan also lives in Israel. So yeah, he got to know Anisan, I think, also through a mutual friend connection. And yeah, sometime he made a meeting between us and we got to know each other. Um, after we became friends, we discussed more, and we realized that we both pursue entrepreneurship. I just recently my service in the army about like 2 years ago, and then I finished my second degree in Tel Aviv University, and then I realized that what I want to do is to pursue entrepreneurship. And Ani also pursuing entrepreneurship in Israel, and connecting between the Japanese market and Israel companies. And after we got to know each other, we realized that there is very good potential in the cybersecurity field in the Japanese market. And we realized that we can do this very unique connection. And he has a very great experience with working with many Japanese large enterprises and knows a lot about the Japanese market. And there is a very big need for cybersecurity in the Japanese market, and I'll get into that later. And I have the technological knowledge and experience, and in Israel probably and the leading country in the world in the cybersecurity field, with many companies and technologies and very talented hackers. So we thought this can be a really good match. And only in this year, Japan faced many large Japanese enterprise face severe cyber attacks. Mitsubishi, for example, last year got attacked by Chinese hackers that hacked its servers in China, and then also further penetrated their network and stole some important documents related to Mitsubishi's projects with the Japanese army. So it was quite a painful hack. Large companies such as Honda and Capcom suffered severe ransom attacks. In the ransom attacks, for example, many very sensitive information about Capcom's plan and customer information was leaked because they didn't want to pay the ransom to the hackers that attacked them. And another very large incident that happened this year is in a paying application in Japan, very famous paying application that is called Docomocosa. Many users, because of the lack of the authentication in that application, the hackers managed to get access to many of the users' accounts and just get access to their bank accounts and make payments. So these are only very recent examples. So after me and Annie realized that we have a very unique opportunity in this growing market, we decided to create the company, and now I'm in Japan and we're speaking with potential customers and clients and so on. And I'll tell later a little bit more in detail about Ironworks. Yeah, so I think a very interesting topic to start with that affects like all of us is like the coronavirus. And in fact, the situation of the coronavirus in Israel and in Japan is very, very different. So in Japan, basically, I think that most of the people and also the government basically don't take the virus as seriously as in the West, and maybe especially as in Israel. Basically, there are no restrictions at all. Life are basically pretty normal. Um, Recently, a state of emergency was declared by the government, but when you ask yourself what is the state of emergency, so basically the government is asking restaurants and pubs to close at night, like over 8 p.m., I think, and they're paying some money for restaurants who obey that order. Not as restrictive as our lockdowns in Israel. Um, this is the state of emergency here. So basically everything is normal, and trains and restaurants are basically full. And some schools like are doing now remote learning. Some schools operate normally. Also, the testing numbers here are quite low, and the real data is quite unclear. Like not all health facilities report their tests to the government, and sometimes like the positivity rate is like 10%, and then the other day it's like 50%, then it gets back to 10%. So it seems that the Japanese government doesn't have like full and clear picture of how the virus is spreading here. And also like it seems like there are no concrete plans here to start vaccination. I think that recently in the last few days, it was announced that they will start, the government is planning to start a vaccination operation like in May or in the end of March. I'm not sure, but yeah. Anyway, they don't take it so much seriously as in Israel. However, all the Japanese people like wear masks all the time. Also, not so unlike Israel. And the Japanese people are very strict about washing hands and keeping clean. They're always very strict about it, and everyone is doing it. And despite maybe not taking like very restrictive measures and keeping with life as normal, hospitals here are not as full in the West. Like the hospitals here, like they're fuller than usual, but still like not completely exploding like in Europe, in the United States. I think that generally, despite not being so much aware about it, they're doing quite good. Um, and there is actually very heated discussion in social media in Japan right now, in the news about the way the government like treats the situation, whether it's good or bad. Because some people are saying the situation is not that bad and our hospitals are not exploded, so we shouldn't hurt the economy. And some others are saying that the government like maybe that's not hiding data, but don't have like clear picture of the situation. And some are saying that they want to keep the numbers low so that they can conduct the Olympics in the summer as they want to. So that's one thing that is going on in Japan right now. And as you can see, like this is a typical like Japanese picture from like maybe probably Shibuya train station. Many people, and they are crowded, but everyone wears mask, maybe except of one or two, and even the statues are wearing masks here. So everyone wears mask in Japan. Yeah, so after I arrived here, I arrived on the 25 in December, and then I was in a quarantine. And yeah, as similar to the state of emergency, which asks the restaurants to close at night, also the quarantine is basically kind of like ask, and it's not mandatory. But yeah, I stayed in quarantine and just mainly went to the super to buy food and so on. Um, I'll say a little things that maybe for people that thinking about, yeah, living in Japan or working in Japan and like how's life here are like. So yeah, in general, the rooms in Tokyo are very small, but very, very clean. Like the Japanese people like to be very efficient about space. So yeah, hotels here and apartments here and they are not are really not big. They're quite small, but yeah, everything is like really clean and is functioning well. So for some people that comes from the west, it may be they're a little bit they are a little bit shocked at the beginning. From yeah, they're maybe more used to bigger rooms. In Tokyo, they're quite small, so you should be prepared for that. And also, they're quite expensive. Like Tokyo is an expensive city. I think maybe like the prices of of the apartments and rooms and hotels are like similar to Tel Aviv, in my opinion. Um, but there are some cheaper options, so you should be aware of. Yeah, there are many hostels here, and the hostels levels are pretty high. Like yeah, very clean, and the reception is very good, and the staff very helpful. And also there are the famous capsule hotels, which are yeah hotels which are like you get a room which is like basically only the bed inside a capsule, and yeah, it costs like a few like $10 in my opinion. Like I don't remember the exact price, but it's really cheap. And yeah, I don't recommend it to yeah take it for a long time. It's not that comfortable, but yeah, if you're having like a few days in Tokyo and maybe you're curious about the experience, so you can try that. And yeah, and actually, like right now, hotels are actually a little bit cheaper because there is a go to travel campaign by the government that wants to boost the economy and tourism sector. And d- during that campaign, the government actually pays money for people who go to hotels and restaurants and so on. So it makes the prices a little bit cheaper, which is really nice. Yeah, and my hotel is currently in Nihonbashi. It's a really nice business area. There are lots of restaurants and close to many places, such as the Palace and Ginza, which is a famous like fashion area. Um, so yeah, if you're coming to Japan for like a business trip or something, Nihonbashi is definitely a good recommendation to stay in Tokyo. So yeah, now let's speak a little bit about traveling in Japan. So yeah, first thing you'll notice when coming to Japan is that everything is so clean. That's really amazing. Like I've traveled many places in the world, but never seen such a clean place as Japan. Um, One thing that's maybe a little annoying, but maybe related to the fact that everything is so clean, that there are no trash bin on the streets. Yeah, you can find them on like convenience stores, supermarkets, or some in some train stations. Um, but yeah, definitely can find them on the street. So if you have some trash you like and you're traveling, you should come with like a bag or something to yeah put the trash until you find a trash bin. Yeah, this is one thing. And the second one is like, yeah, in my opinion, Japan's subway system is the best in the world. You can go from anywhere to anywhere, like especially in Tokyo, Um, so yeah, you can travel from everywhere to everywhere, and trains are coming every few minutes. And the subway is always on time. In fact, there are like some funny stories about like subway that are being late in like a few seconds, and then like the company announced like a sincere apology message for the customers that the train like was late in a few seconds. Really unlike the Israeli train system. um, yeah, and the subway system can be a little bit complicated for beginners because there are many signs, and yeah, it can be, there are many different train lines, and for each train stations there are many different like exits and entrance and so on. But my tip is that you can use Google Maps. It works almost perfectly. And yeah, if for example you're using Google Maps and ask him how to get to a place, so it can tell you exactly what line to take, what yeah, what station to get to, what entrance to get to. And in all the stations there are really really good signs in English, so you can just easily search for the signs and follow the instructions of Google Maps. And yeah, actually I think it's quite easy to um, yeah, find yourself and like to manage to get to the right places if you use Google Maps and read the lines. And yeah, and basically Tokyo has so many wonderful places. It's really, really great city. Like you can find here like parks and nature and fashion malls and old temples and futuristic buildings and architecture and technology. So there's like all these different kind of things in one city. That's really, really nice. So for you, for people that who likes to travel, you'll have like great and experience many things. So you'll have great time in Tokyo. Here are yeah, some of pictures I took in my last week after I got out of the quarantine. As you can see, yeah, temples and nature and very, very clean, and a cool robot that greeted me when I came to the airport. Yeah, very nice. Another topic that I want to discuss is like the food here. Like the food in Tokyo is, in my opinion, like in Japan in general, is like the best in the world. And especially in Tokyo, you can find like everything that you want. Um, I have some friends that maybe are not so interested like in Japanese food specifically, but they didn't know that in Tokyo you really can find all kinds of food, like French food, Italian food, like Israeli food, and yeah, you can find really everything, and of course the great Japanese food. Also, something that not many people don't know is that Japanese are really really good at desserts. There are many famous Japanese dishes such as sushi and ramen and so on, but the Japanese really really like desserts and make different kind of desserts. So for people who are sweet lovers like me, yeah, you'll have really great time in Japan. And yeah, restaurants are everywhere. Like lots of restaurants, and like everywhere you go, you can find lots of restaurants. It's a very like common business here, I guess. I think a little bit even more than, yeah, more than the West. So yeah, you can enjoy lots of great food in Tokyo. And yeah, some people may think that Japan is known to be like an expensive country, but that's not really true. Yeah, indeed, the prices of apartments in Tokyo is quite high. But other than that, it's actually, yeah, not so expensive at all, and you can find lots of delicious and very cheap food. For example, you can buy lots of great things in the convenience stores. So the convenience stores is like small supermarkets that are located like every 5 minutes you go in Tokyo, you can find a convenience store. It's like AMPM for the Israelis. But yeah, unlike AMPM, you can find here lots of stuff. You can find, yeah, heated meat and meals and many desserts. And yeah, so many delicious food. And yeah, I think that in Japan you can have, like in Tokyo, you can have a very very good meal and satisfying meal for about like $7 or $6. And so yeah, that's really amazing. There are lots of cheap options here. Also there is also like expensive food, but yeah, for people who like more like luxurious food. But yeah, you can find in everything. And yeah, when it comes to food, Japan is not expensive at all. um, Another two things that I think it's interesting to mention, like there are no tips here in restaurants, or either in restaurants or like for service or like to the, yeah, people who like give you the food if you order. Yeah, tips is uncommon in Japan. In fact, some people like might be insulted, might get insulted if you try to tip them. That's also like quite common. So yeah, don't do that when you're in Japan. And also, like in many restaurants here, actually you can pay through machines. In the West, it's less common, maybe like in like big firms such as McDonald's and so on. But yeah, here there are many even like small restaurants that you can pay through machines. And I think like in general, like you can do like everything here in Japan, like following instruction and do everything through machines. So it's like you can live in Tokyo actually without like speaking or having like social interaction at all. If you like, even if you don't know, yeah, Japanese, you can, yeah, just follow the signs, follow the instructions, and yeah, live, basically do whatever you need. Some pictures of like, yeah, great food that I ate this week. And few more last points I will say about spending time in Tokyo. So yeah, there are English signs everywhere. However, the Japanese people English is quite bad. I think that many of them can understand English quite well, but many of them are very shy and afraid to speak English because they think my English is very bad, so I can't really speak it. Um, so yeah, you can communicate with them with basic English, but the amount of people that you will find that can have like a real conversation in English is quite low. Um, However, they're very minded to use technology, and they're very used to foreigners. For example, one common thing to do here is like if you want to like maybe convey a more complicated message to your Japanese like friend or like service provider, so you can just use, for example, some translation service. Type it in English and then show him on the phone the Japanese translation. They're quite used to it. And maybe like a hacker tip, when it comes to Japanese, actually the most common translation service, Google Translate, is not so good, and it can translate quite well like very basic Japanese sentences, but it cannot translate well maybe like more complicated sentences or like more complicated text. And there is a service called company called DeepL that has a free translation service, and they can, I think their algorithms are very good, and they can translate Japanese very well, like probably everything you'll need in your time in Tokyo. They can translate it. So yeah, if you use like DeepL and just write it in English and then show the Japanese to the other persons, they will understand you 100%. So yeah, even if you don't know, yeah, even if your Japanese is not so good. By the way, I know like basic Japanese, so I try to communicate with Japanese people in Japanese. Um, but yeah, if you can't use Japanese, so you can't use like DeepL if you want to convey something more complicated. Another thing which is interesting, given like, yeah, it's interesting to notice it, like maybe from an hacker point of view, is that what I call security by trust is very common. For example, uh, the Japanese people like will initially assume that you're a good person. And for example, there are many self-paying like services. For example, like in many restaurants, you just can take like free drinking, or like food is like by serving, and you can pay for a drink, and then or you pay for some food, and yeah, then like they're telling you, okay, go to that area where the food is and the drinks are, and you can take for yourself. And yeah, they kind of assume that you will take the amount of food or drinks that you paid for, but they don't really check you. And yeah, in Tokyo it's not really like that, but on some train station, like maybe in like more rural areas in Japan, uh, also when you pay for the train tickets, there are some stations in which like you don't have to cross like the gate to get to the actual platform. So yeah, you basically like go, and there is like in like on the side there is like maybe like a paying machine that you can pay for, and then you can just go to the train itself. In Tokyo, it's not that common, but it happens in some places in Japan. Um, and yeah, and it can also help like when being arrested. So a common story that many like people, Westerners who visited Japan tell, and actually it also happened to me and my friends, is that yeah, we rented a car and yeah, drove in Japan, and then we were arrested by a cop that told us that our speed was yeah above what is allowed in that road. And yeah, then he asked us, yeah, why your speed was faster than what is allowed. And then my friend who drove answered, I just didn't notice, I'm so sorry. And the cop was like, okay, you didn't notice, so yeah, I don't blame you, so next time please be more careful, yeah, and just let us go. So yeah, this thing is quite common in Japan. Yeah, they're initially they will trust you. So yeah, I think it's quite nice, but yeah, maybe not so secure. And so yeah, it can help you when you're being arrested, but yeah, anyway, please try to avoid that, and yeah, and prove that their trust is right. Some interest. Now I'll speak a little bit about some very interesting cultural differences in Japan. I think maybe one of the most common one, like maybe the most strongest one, is the aspect of social harmony in Japan. So in Japan, like unlike Israel, like completely the opposite from Israel, the group becomes before the individual. So the individuals in Japan really, really, really care about like what other people are thinking about them and what is like the current atmosphere in the group. And they always think about what other people will say and how they will be seen by other people before they're thinking like about themselves and their own feeling. And a very common phrase in Japan is called like a kuki or yomu, which means yeah, reading the air. And in Japanese people like yeah, how the Japanese people see like communication, like social communication. So according to their like view or concept, there is some like social harmony. And as a Japanese person, you really, really, really don't want to disturb the social harmony. That's why Japanese people are very like careful when they're saying their thoughts, because they don't want to disrupt the harmony, to hurt someone, to say no to someone. Yeah, this is the other point, that Japanese people really don't like to say no. Um, so yeah, being like keeping a state of social harmony and that everyone is like happy, or at least on the surface, is very, very important for them. And yeah, as a result, maybe so for like Japanese people have really like formal mode and non-formal mode. So Japanese people can behave very, very, very differently when they are in work or in like in formal situations from what they will behave where when they are with friends, which is also like unlike Israel. Like most Israeli are like very, very open people that will just yeah, be themselves in every situation. But the Japanese people like behave very differently when they are like in work or like dealing with some so giving a service or dealing with some yeah social situations. And they will speak differently, they will behave differently, and will say less things, express themselves less when they compared to when they're with friends. And yeah, maybe an interesting thing to mention is like recently there is a person in Japan who call himself like a rented guy who does nothing. So he opened a Twitter and just yeah offered his service. And if you want to use his service, you can just rent him, and he will go to a walk with you, like on the park or something like that, and he will say nothing, like basically just listen to your story and say things like I understand, okay. And he said he will not encourage you or something like that, just listen to your story. And this guy became really, really popular. He have hundreds of thousands followers on his Twitters. And indeed, many Japanese people say that they feel really comfortable with him because they don't have to think about what other people will say. And yeah, they feel they can tell him everything because they don't have to be afraid of any social circumstances and think what the other will say. Yeah, so that's yeah, it's interesting point about like group atmosphere and compared with like individual atmosphere. Yeah, also Japanese really like to apologize and be humble and show gratitude. That is very, very important. Japanese people don't tend to boast. Being boasting here is very uncommon and considered very rude, and they're also very silent. In Japanese people, like in Western communication, especially like in Israeli communication, if there like some silence during the conversation, we think of it as awkward situation. But in Japanese people, when they speak, sometimes they take like few seconds of break and being in silence, and for them it's very, very natural. So yeah, if you speak with a Japanese person and yeah, he's a little silent or there's some moments and seconds of silence. So yeah, you don't. It doesn't like because he thinks that you're not interesting or the conversation is awkward. It's just how they are. Um, and yeah, and also they're very like everyday routines, and it's like hard for them to maybe adapt to changes. And yeah, I'll get more to that on the next slide. So yeah, now I'll speak about the Japanese business culture. So yeah, there is maybe the most important thing is that there is a very, very strict hierarchy in Japanese companies. There is a very strong hierarchy. It is clear who are like the bosses and who are the more experienced guy, the more experienced people in the company. And for example, if you just join the company, you must show respect to the other people who are older than you and have more experience than you. And yeah, you can't be rude to them, and you always be a little bit, you have to be careful with them to not to hurt them or something like that. So yeah, the people who are above you in the company, and you can really, really feel that way. um, so yeah, very, very strong hierarchy in the Japanese companies. And yeah, there are also many, many traditions in Japanese companies that you have to follow. Not have to, but also very, very common, and you look weird if you don't. For example, it's very common to like every day to hang out with your people of your group or team. As I said, like being in a group, social harmony, very, very important in Japan. And yeah, this brings me to the second point of working overtime. So it is very common that like new people in Japanese companies, as it's very important for them to show that they are serious workers and prove to the like more experienced people that they are capable persons. So many of them work extra hours, and yeah, actually overtime is a crucial problem in Japan, and actually like many people here like actually like suicide because working hard and working overtime. And the social culture is not easy. However, in recent years, it becomes a little better, and there are more and more companies in which they encourage you not to work overtime, and in which the social harmony is a little less strict. So I think they're going in the right direction, but yeah, you should be careful about that. And third point is that Japanese people and companies, uh, Japanese like business is very, very based on trust, and both when it comes to business partners and also when it comes to customers. When you want to work with Japanese companies, it's something that takes time, and you have to build a relationship with them. Like you need to know each other for some time, and then you can earn their trust. It's not like the American ecosystem or like Israeli ecosystem. Like for example, in Israel, you can just like go to investors or like companies and be like, hey, we are very smart people from the army, and we have some cool idea. Here is our product, so please invest in us, or like please buy our product. And if they think your idea is good, so yeah, they will pay for it. But in Japan, it's not like right that before you want to sell your service to some companies or like form some business connections, they first need to get to know you. And also, for example, if you reach like a Japanese company, so probably it will take time for you to advance to the upper levels and be able to take more decisions. In the beginning, when you'll come, so you'll probably be assigned to like a specific missions, and you probably, if you say something like if you have some input about the company or about some people and how you think the company can improve, they will probably will not take your word as seriously unless you become more experienced and have more time in the company. Then they can trust you more, and then they will take your word for it. And yeah, and this also brings me to the second point, that Japanese people don't like to take risks. Japanese people and companies don't like risks. Um, some people said that, for example, if a Japanese company can like have like in 80% they can earn like $10, and in 20% they can like uh, if like 80% they can earn $10, $10, but yeah, lose nothing. Or the second choice, they can earn like $10,000, but yeah, they have some percentage of losing their money. They will always go for the safer option. That's why they don't like changes, and they're quite slow to make changes. So that's also something you need to know. I think that many companies are also are indeed very creative, and their creative ability is really good. But yeah, it takes time for them until they launch new projects and yeah, doing some changes in the company. That's also very unlike Israeli companies that can make changes and adapt to new situation quite fast. And yeah, and the last point is that it is yeah common saying that like Japanese companies are yeah not so good like in innovation, like creating a new idea and then bringing it from 0 to 1. But once they have like an idea, they can create the perfect operation to optimize it and bring it from 1 to 100. And yeah, Israeli people and like economy is like very good with dealing with like tough and unique situation and adapting fast to changes, but not good in like not long-term management. And this is like this is also why the connection between Israeli business culture and Japanese business culture can be very unique, because they really can complete each other. And lastly, I'll speak about cybersecurity in Japan. The situation of cybersecurity in Japan is basically not good. There is a very lack of knowledge and awareness about cybersecurity here in Japan. I think that the main reason is that like until the last few years, Japan wasn't really being attacked. Japan doesn't have like many enemies. Yeah, sometimes the like North Korea are doing some problems, sometimes China, and in fact, I think China hacked Japan much more, and then the Japanese don't aware of that. But yeah, so but other than maybe China and North Korea, Japan doesn't have any enemies, and they don't have until a few years ago they didn't have much like big cyber incidents. However, in recent years it's becoming much stronger. But yeah, because they didn't have incidents until a few years ago, the lack of they don't have much knowledge in cybersecurity. They don't study security in schools, of course, and didn't have much courses in the university. There are not many Japanese hackers. There is not like security infrastructure of CTFs and so on. So in the last 1 2 3 years, it's becoming a little bit more popular. There are more CTFs, which are hacking competitions, and there are more cybersecurity courses in universities, but it's still only the beginning for this market. Um, and yeah, there are not many Japanese security companies. So they are like lacking security solutions. And because the Japanese market don't know much about security, and they don't really know how to deal with that, what kind of solutions they need, where are their vulnerabilities. Our company, Ironworks, we decided to focus on the issue of like penetration testing and cybersecurity education. There are many companies here which are really in need of a solution that will allow them to understand where are their problems in their security infrastructure, and how they should avoid attack, and like what they should do, what kind of solutions they should buy. There is a really big need for that kind of expertise which they don't have, and that's why our company is focusing on that issue. Yeah. Any questions so far before we will go to the test? Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions so far, then I will proceed. Yeah. I will ask you now like a common question in programming interviews for large tech companies. Um, this is this question tests like algorithmic thinking and like writing code ability. Um, this question is not really like related to hacking or cybersecurity, but many companies like Google, Facebook, and also even like cybersecurity companies, they're very interested in to see that you can like you have like basic, that you have good like algorithm thinking, like logical thinking, and that you also can write code, because this is important, like the basics of writing good code and having like a good algorithmic thinking is really important, like in both in cybersecurity, but also in like other tech related fields. And that's why many companies and large corporations like to ask like programming and algorithm design questions. This specific question, so it's very famous for to if you'll be interviewed for a large technological corporate, you'll probably be asked. Not sure about like this, the exact version of these questions, but this question have like many different variations, and there is a very likely chance that you can get in one of these question variants in one of your interviews. So I'll ask this question, and I guess some people who are maybe have more experience with programming and algorithm design, or that people that work for large technological companies probably already seen this question, or maybe some of its variation. But let's go to the question, and everyone who thinks to have a solution, if you know it, so please keep it for yourself. And if you don't, you can try to solve it and write like maybe send your code in the chat, or like pseudocode. How do you think you can solve it? And I'll give you a few minutes, and then I will discuss the answer. So in this question, so you're given a dictionary of words and a large input string, and you need to find whether the input string can be completely segmented, can be like divided to words that are inside the given dictionary, inside the given list of words. So let's see two examples. So for example, if the set of possible words is like apple and pear and pie, so if the input string is like apple pie, so the string apple pie, so your function should output yes, because apple pie can be made of the first word in the dictionary and then the last word in the dictionary. But if like the input string is like apple pear, so with double E, so this string cannot be segmented into words inside the dictionary, so your function should answer no. So you should write a function that gets two parameters, the dictionary or list of words and the input string, and should answer whether it can be segmented or not. So I'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Yeah, so I think maybe I'll proceed to discussing the answer. I get that in normal interview you'll get more time, but yeah, we're a little bit short on time. So let's see. So actually, so maybe there are like there are two possible solutions. The first solution, which is probably the more natural approach, the natural approach to think about the problem, is to use a basic solution which is based on recursion. So what we can see, we can see, for example, if we had like an index of the string that separates the string into two parts. So if we know that the first part is all what we need to check if the first part is in the dictionary and the second part can be segmented to if and the second part can be segmented into words from the dictionary. So we need to check whether the first part of the string is in the dictionary and that the second part can be segmented into words from the dictionary. That would mean that the whole string can be segmented into words from the dictionary. So the first solution would be just to enumerate and guess what is this index that separates for two parts. So basically we go all over like the possible division of the string into two parts. And then for every possible index that separates the string into two parts, we check whether the first part is in the dictionary and the second part can be segmented into words of strings from the dictionary. And that will tell us if the whole string can do. But the problem with that solution, it is very, very not efficient. Actually, like the running time of this solution is exponential time, because it will be like, because we're doing like we're running through a loop of complexity, let's say n, which is the length from the strings. Then we run it for each iteration we run our function on like smaller substring, and then it will be another loop and so on. So it can be like easily n factorial, which is very, very high running time. Um, so there is like an improved answer. And the idea is to use memory to avoid doing same calculations over and over, because in the previous solutions, there are many, many calculations that we will do over and over. Um, so the idea is to do it using like a bottom to top approach. And the idea is to build a table, like a list that saves for each index I, whether the string up to length I can be segmented into words. And then if we can compute such a table, the answer will be like that table in the last place, which means like the whole string. And the main observation is that we can calculate the values of this table using the previous values of smaller indexes and some additional cheap tests. So let's see the code. So here we can, in the first line, we create that table that whether the list can be whether the string can be divided up to the I index. Then we run in a loop over all the indexes. And then, if the first part, if given an index, so if the whole string, the whole prefix is a word in the dictionary, so it means, we're good, and the value in the ith place is true. And otherwise, if the whole string, if the whole prefix is not in the dictionary, so it can be divided into words from the dictionary if if there exists a smaller index, which his value is true, and like the remaining suffix and the remaining suffix is a word in the dictionary. So that way you can fill the values of this table from the bottom to top, and just return the length, the index of the table, the last index of the table. So that is the idea of the solution. So the running time of this solution is like 2 to the squared, maybe times the length of the dictionary, which is quite good. And why large companies like such kind of questions? Because these questions like have a basic solution, which is like has a very bad running time. And then after thinking about it a little more, you can improve your solution by using like trade-off between like memory and running time and like bottom to top design. So like, yeah, this question knows that you can maybe think out of the box, or at least know different kind of thinkings and methodologies, and can understand how you can use memory to save up running time. Yeah, this is why companies like this question. And yeah, that's it, I think. So yeah, maybe I'll stop the sharing, and now I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Gonan. That was really fascinating. So we have one question on the chat already by Jerry Abu Ayub.
Yeah.
Do you think doing cybersecurity courses will give you an upper hand in the industry?
Yeah, I think the answer is definitely yes. Yeah, I think that most of the like many probably most of the people in the like Japanese cybersecurity industry like acquire their knowledge using some kind of like online courses, or like, yeah, some of them probably saw some courses and then like try to do some hacking activities or like cybersecurity activities by themselves. Courses is a very good thing to begin with, and after you're doing some courses, I also highly recommend doing some like security challenges. There are many different like security challenges that's available for free on the internet, and yeah, you can search them. For example, like Over the Wire is a very common website with many interesting security challenges, and there are many hacking competitions like CTF that also publish their security challenges and the answers to them. So go like doing a cybersecurity course is a very good start, and then I also highly recommend to proceed with trying some security challenges, and this can really give you yeah, very good experience to start your career in the Japanese cybersecurity industry.
Great. Thank you very much for the answer. Does anybody else have any questions? You can even tell us on the chat and we can unmute you if you'd like to say the answer, if you want to say the question verbally. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, I see a question from Ron Bronza. So Ron wants to know, what is the Japanese public's opinion on cybersecurity in general? I know it is a big deal in Israel, but is the average Japanese citizen aware of cyber threats?
Yeah, so it is a very good question. I think the basic answer is no. Japanese people like really don't know much about cybersecurity. Yeah, about cybersecurity. I think like the average person, yeah, probably will know nothing about it. And people inside the tech industry, so for them it is really kind of voodoo and like some sort of like magical word they don't really understand in it. So yeah, people in the tech industry are more aware of the threat of cybersecurity. Yeah, so they are aware of it, but they don't really understand in it. And yeah, for them it's kind of a big problem. Yeah.
I see. Thank you for the answer, Gonan. Everybody, I know we're going a little bit over time, but if you want to ask any more questions, we're going to stay a little bit longer. We're going to stay another 5 minutes here so we can answer everybody's questions. If you really need to go, then that's fine. Thank you so much for coming. So we have another question from Neely. She's asking if you have any cyber-focused experiences in the Japanese market. Like, can you share any experience that you had about cybersecurity in your work in Ironworks with the Japanese market?
Yeah. So yeah, after starting working with Anisan on Ironworks and starting speaking with the Japanese companies, so yeah, I got to learn more about the Japanese market. And yeah, as I said, maybe something that surprised me is, yeah, maybe the how little they understand cybersecurity threats, even like in the tech industry. for example, we worked with a few companies and like performed like a penetration testing on their services and found some like very important and crucial security vulnerabilities, security problems that can affect their services. And we send them report. And then after sending them the report, it took them like really, really, really long time to fix it. After we sent it, despite the fix was actually quite simple. And their response was like, okay, there are some vulnerabilities with our service. That's bad, but doesn't seem like that they really understand it and find it urgent. Yeah, that's why also the cybersecurity attacks on Japanese companies increased, because it's a good place for hackers. But yeah, I think this market is on the rise, and I definitely foresee that in the future years to come, they will get more knowledge about it, and I also think there will be more cyber attacks that will help them realize.
I see. Great. Fascinating answer, Gunan. Thank you. So we have a follow-up question from Ron. He wants to know how do Japanese companies address cybersecurity? Outsourcing it or do they handle it in-house in the long run?
So the answer is depends on maybe like the type of company. I think like very larger corporations like Toyota and Honda and Sony and so on have inside in-house security teams. Of course, they use some security products. They don't develop their security product themselves. Also, companies in the West don't develop cybersecurity products themselves. But I'm almost every big enough company in the West will have cybersecurity related team. So large, very very large corporations in Japan will have some such teams probably, but even like quite large companies that's worth like few $billion don't have security teams at all, and basically have zero people in the company with like basic cybersecurity knowledge. And yeah, that's quite fascinating in my opinion. So yeah, such kind of companies like basically outsource everything about cybersecurity. They don't have this knowledge.
I see. Great. Thank you for the answer. We have another question here from a person whose name is in kanji and I cannot read. I apologize.
Yeah.
So he wants to know, do you plan on approaching enterprise companies or smaller companies? What is the market for Axelnode for Ironworks at this
Yeah.
moment?
So I think that in the future we want to approach both types of companies. I think that in this stage, from our experience, smaller companies that's just they don't realize enough like the threats of cybersecurity. They also don't have enough budget. Like when they planning their annual budget, they don't have enough budget to pay for cybersecurity services. We hear like again companies that even can we spoke with some companies that worth about $1 billion, and they have like maybe like $10,000 a year for a cybersecurity budget, with basically nothing. So yeah, our main focus now will be to working with enterprises, and yeah, maybe in the future we can offer like maybe more cheaper and more automated solutions for smaller companies.
Great. Amazing. Thank you for the answer, Gonen. So let's make this the last question, as we're already pretty far after our planned ending time. Neely would like to know, what kind of security researcher are you, Gonen? Are you a pen tester, a code review, hardware hacker? Can you tell us a little bit more about your specific experience?
So basically, I can do basically almost everything when it comes to technology. So when it comes to pen testing, so I look for like security vulnerabilities. So my job is like to understand the systems that I'm dealing with, and find whether they have some security problems. I can deal with like web applications and mobile applications, hardware. I can do pen testing. I can do black box pen testing, which means I don't have the source code. I can also do, of course, white box testing. And we're currently not providing like any code review services. But we do like focusing on education, and yeah, explaining our clients like where are their vulnerabilities and what they should do in order to avoid them. Thank you very much.
I see. Yes, Gonan is a very versatile hacker. We're very lucky to have with us here today. Okay, great. So I see that there are no more questions in the chat at this point. So I think this would be a good time to thank everybody. Really, thank you so much for coming in today. Please have a look at the chat. I sent you the links for if you're looking for a job in Israel or in Japan. There is a link for the Google form where you can register your information, and we might be able to help you find a job in Israel or in Japan. You're also more than welcome. Please do join our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where we share a lot of experience from Tokyo. We recommend the best places to go, good restaurants, attractions. You can make you feel like you're, even if you're not living in Japan at the moment, it can really make you feel like you're there right now. Some advice about living in Japan. So please, you can also feel free to join our Facebook group. So I think this will be a good point to end the event. Thank you all very much for coming here today. Thank you also, Gonen, for your fascinating talk.
Thank you.
And we're hoping to see you again in our next meetup. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.